7 keys to engagement that I discovered in my travels. Key number 1 is wellness. What you bring to the table, being your best self, has got to be the starting place. If you're behind the 8 ball because you didn't get enough sleep, if you're behind the 8 ball because you didn't get enough food, if you're behind the 8 ball because you are not healthy and you're dragging yourself, well, the expression is used, dragging your sorry arse off to work because you're ill, then you're behind the 8 ball and you don't have the plot already. So you already lost the plot. So wellness is crucial to the conversation of the keys to engagement, because you have to bring your best self to the table, and that is an employee conversation, because employees can do lots to help out with that. The second one is about belonging. And belonging is a sense of Ubuntu. You know the African expression Ubuntu? Ubuntu means I am because we are. U-B-U-N to you. And Ubuntu is a concept that is being played out in organizations around the world in terms of making an organization like a hometown, where everybody knows your business. I grew up in a small town called Parsboro. Everybody knows the name of your dog and what kind of milk you drink. And it has its disadvantages and advantages, as you well know from being in a small town. But there's a community spirit in a small town that I think we lose in organizations. When people don't feel a sense of belonging in an organization, they disengage. Why bother? They back off, okay? Number 2, recognition. I want to look at the whole notion of how do we actually recognize gifts and talents and skills of other human beings? How do they feel a sense of recognition and validation? And what does that look like? So I'm going to do an activity around that just to reinforce that point with you as well. So wellness, belonging, recognition. And the 4th key to engagement is trust. If you don't trust what's going on, or if you have this attitude of here we go again, which is the opposite of trust, is mistrust, then you're not going to engage. You're going to step back and watch for that change to take place. Have you ever been in an organization where the latest thing was Project Y, and you were actually part of Project Q as well, and you remember how that went? And you go, I'm not engaging in Project Y because I saw what happened in Project Q. The leadership didn't back it, the funding was cut off. So there's this whole notion of lack of trust that we have to deal with if you want to help people engage in the work that they do. The 5th one is called responsiveness. Now, I'm not going to explain that right now, I'm just going to do it a little later, but there's really 2 ways of being in the world. 2 ways of being. You can be responsive to life around you. I can be responsive to this fellow here, responsive to this gal in the front row, or I can be resistant to them. If I'm resistant to them, that creates a whole other energy. It's called difficult people. That's what it's called, actually. Difficult people is all about resistance energy. Responsive energy is working together in cooperation and to create something greater than for the common good than what's between the 2 people themselves. So I want to talk about responsiveness and how to be responsive. Because when you respond to others, they warm up and they want to be responsive to you, and you come together and great things happen. The 6th key of engagement is perspective. Often people have blinders on. They see the narrow part of life, and they see a certain perspective, and in fact they have little antennas on their heads, and they only want to see that one thing. It's like having colored glasses on. You can only see a certain spectrum of life. And so when you have a narrow, locked-in perspective, you see things as being more negative than they really have to be. And so when you have an open perspective, when you have a broader perspective, you can actually step back and say, well, yeah, there's some bad stuff to that, but hey, there's also some good stuff to that. So where do I want to put my energy and time and talents? On good or bad, or right or wrong, up or down, whatever you want to look at. So your perspective in life is pretty powerful stuff. I want to talk about the 10-90 principle that helps you understand how your mental perspective is pretty powerful. And last, and certainly not least, the whole notion of service. That the 7th key of engagement is actually having something to serve that's greater than you. So it's about service above self. We'll talk about some thoughts and ideas around service above self.